Happy New Year!
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We survived 2022, and we're continuing to hopefully thrive in 2023, right? Is that the consensus? Right,
Amen.
yeah.
We hope.
Yeah, so I think, what we wanted to do in this first of the New Year gatherings is really kind of do a high level, what are you seeing in each of your respective areas related to the industry in terms of challenges and opportunities? And also the other question that I would raise is what surprised you about 2022? What happened that you didn't expect? And hopefully that's more positives than negatives, but it may not be. So who wants to begin? Carrie will begin.
I can.
All right.
Well, I think it was, everyone was promoting it way before this. Oh no, the mailman's coming, which means my dog is going to bark. Sorry in advance. These non-alcoholic drinks are really starting to annoy me. They were already getting very popular with, even on premise and stuff. And now that we're going into dry January, I feel like that is what everybody is talking about. And now people are getting on the bandwagon. I mean, it was already kind of getting into a big thing. I know we all live in different markets, but, there's even, non-alcoholic bars and pubs and stuff now. It's really crazy. I mean, I hate to say, I hope this isn't the wave of the future, but I mean, just even in the last week or two, they're promoting non-alcoholic wines and just like non-alcoholic everything. I don't know if you guys are seeing it.
1 in every 4 cocktails is now non-alcoholic, according to a consensus of a number of bartenders in Manhattan. And the other point was that the prices of the mocktails are sometimes equal, if not greater, than the alcohol, because when using non-alcohol spirits, they're actually more expensive, and some of the ingredients are more expensive, and consumers are willing to pay it.
So that's my big observation. I'm sure we've all seen it, but that's really putting a hurting on us. Not that we already didn't have a bad year as it was with, container and shipping and every other, supply chain issue. But to start off January with this, I know this is year 10 of dry January, but I think it's just really gone to the next level.
Here's my question on that. And I see where your concern is at. Is that what we're really seeing? Or are we still just seeing things that are within a certain, and again, I'm going to point to my cognitive biases sheet up here. This is something called in-group thinking. The one thing I know about the drinks industry is that we get caught in our own circles of information and data collecting and things like that. And
Did you really just use that term? I love that.
Yeah,
Did you really use that term?
But you
love that.
Hey, Stephen, I'm going to start off the year on a big note here. Right? But here's a great example. I live in northern New Jersey, so I'm, as the crow flies, about 26 miles from Midtown Manhattan. Okay. Do you realize that is literally a world away, and that none of this that we're talking about has made any impact at all up here? So I'm on the mainland, for example, and Manhattan is 26 miles away, and it literally is a different world where all of that stuff takes place. And so what happens is that we also have an ecosystem of communicators around this industry, and all they do is feed off what the trends are in the industry. And so it just kind of gets magnified from there. I don't see this as being a huge threat at all. I see it as a reaction to some things, like, for example, Andy and Anderson Cooper getting sloshed on New Year's Eve last year, and everyone had a big reaction to that, right? So CNN said no drinking, you're not allowed to get drunk this year on New Year's Eve, and that becomes part of this sort of in-group thinking. I don't see this as being cute. It's just, you know.
Can I add my 2
I
cents?
think, no, I'm sorry, I was going to say, shouldn't we look at the fact that we're still seeing increased sales in all the
Yeah,
key
can
categories?
I add my 2 cents, please?
Yeah.
So I'm in the Denver market, and I'm 25 minutes from Denver, but Golden is sort of, it might be the dark side of the moon compared to the rest of Denver, even though we keep getting local and regional and state accolades. My little tasting room is a world-class cocktail bar. And when I say world-class, Gin Magazine named us the Gin Bar of the Year last year, which is a global award. So it's literally a world-class cocktail bar. We were named the top classic cocktail bar in the Denver market the same year that Williams and Graham in Denver was named the top cocktail bar in the country by Tales of the Cocktail. So we are a world-class program. Here in Denver, which is a pretty hot cocktail market, the high-end bars are beginning to offer more and more non-alcoholic options, but it doesn't seem to be eroding their alcohol sales, quite the contrary. And in my bar, which is legally a sales room, so I don't sell beer, I don't sell wine, I don't sell vodka or rum because I don't make vodka or rum. We run a very large cocktail program. We have a very large non-alcoholic cocktail program, including a variety of cocktails, which are non-alcoholic clones of some of our more popular alcoholic cocktails. And what we found is running the non-alcoholic program in our own venue keeps people in that might otherwise leave because their friends don't want to drink. Or for dry January, people come in anyway. I mean, I was in last night. We had a pretty popular musician in. It was a decent Thursday night for us. And I actually asked the staff and they said, you know, we're selling more non-alcoholic cocktails tonight than we did, you know, the first Thursday of December because it's dry January, but we're still selling 80% alcoholic cocktails. And that 20%, I mean, you know, they will point to whole tables of people that are there to see the music and want to enjoy a cocktail, but don't want to drink. So I think that, you know, what Robin has said is very, very valid. I think that in certain markets, it may be skewed, but I don't think it's going to be an overall threat. Overall alcohol consumption is up and continues to rise. You know, I think especially for someone that owns a brand with a tasting room that runs as a bar, to have other options than alcohol keeps people visiting when they may have friends that don't want to come and drink. So my 2 cents.
I think that what you said is extremely important because where I was going to go with this is that alcohol consumption is up, sales are up. And what we're doing is that we're making it more appealing to a wider base of people who otherwise wouldn't go to bars or wouldn't, you know, enjoy some of the elements of a cocktail, the cocktail experience. So I think when the sales drop, different story. When the sales of alcohol drops and non-alcohol eclipses it, that's a different world. I don't see that.
Thank God for the designated driver. You know, now they can actually come and actually have, you know, a great experience with everybody.
Or Uber.
else. Huh?
Thank God for Uber.
Or Uber.
It's probably done more for the business. Right.
Hi guys, my name is Chris Labange. I'm kind of new to the group, so I,
Chris,
appreciate the
welcome.
comment. Yeah, thank you. I had just a question in this regard, and it was something I was wondering, with this too, is how many people actually show up looking for a non-alcoholic beverage, or how many of them start, and have one or two drinks and then, don't want to leave and kind of transition over? Is that something that happens as well? Or are they, it seems like we're talking about people just literally being the DD versus, like you said, sometimes you got a big group of people You got somebody's wife or, a person who's like 100 pounds who can have one drink, but doesn't want to leave, after, the group who maybe can, consume a little bit more. So how much of it is managing, kind of the rate of consumption, versus just, looking for, like the other gentleman said, music or the venue, is it a venue thing, where they're coming for the venue and they love the venue so much because of the, the ambiance, or is it, people just being more responsible and kind of managing their consumption?
At least in my experience with my venue. And I've talked to some of the major bars in Denver. For example, Alex Jump and I have talked at length about this. Alex recently left Death & Co. as their manager, become Seedlip's national brand ambassador. So she's pretty in tune with this. People want the experience of going to a high-end cocktail venue. And notice I said high-end cocktail venue. They want the experience of that high-end cocktail and not necessarily want the alcohol of that high-end cocktail. That's one issue. The second issue is people want to go out and be out and about. I don't think this is going to erode overall alcohol sales. I think that certain types of venues in certain areas are going to see a spike in this. But, your Shot and Beer sports bar, I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of mocktails being sold.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was
even
seeing.
The term mocktail is a detractor. A mocktail is different than a non-alcoholic craft cocktail.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was seeing. Like a lot of the people, I'm newer, distillery, and we do have a tasting room, and that's a big part of what we do. Is really sell through, the tasting room. So it's all about coming and having that experience. And we don't have a huge, non-alcoholic cocktail options. We've really, again, we're still trying to find our way on things. So this is actually very helpful for me. But at the same time, it's interesting to see, because a lot of people who are coming to our location weren't typically bourbon drinkers, or weren't, we're getting people to kind of convert over from wine and some of these other things, because like you said, we don't offer beer and we don't offer wine. So they'll go, what can I try? And then they'll have an old fashioned, and then all of a sudden they have one or two and they're like, whoa, I got to go home. I'm not used to, drinking in the same fashion. So that's where, like I said, we actually, the first couple months, we actually had to come up with cocktails that were just lower proof to get people to stay around. So, I think it offers me potentially that opportunity to have something where, again, people can stay around and you don't have someone trying to drag the group out of the bar because somebody sloshed.
Well, and I think you raise a good point, speaking as a distillery owner with a tasting room to a distillery owner with a tasting room. Even though we're in 17 states, half our revenue comes from our on-premise locations. And so what we've found that to continue to grow that revenue, we're known for boozy cocktails, but we've added taps with lower ABV. We brought in highballs. We brought in some lower ABV versions of classics. And then we brought in the NA program. And, that we believe the market we're in is getting more and more competitive. We used to being Little Golden, Colorado. We were the only high-end cocktail venue in town. We're not anymore. And yet we're continuing to survive, but non-alcohol and low alcohol are a big piece of that, because if people come in and, all they can get is a high alcohol stiff pour, 2 and they're done.
Yep, that's what I found.
The other thing is it's price as well, and price is important for you. We're in a beer town where you can go to the breweries and get a $5 to $7 beer all night long, or you can go to the dive bar down the street and get a $3 beer. Our cocktails are 12 to 14. And so the other thing we've done with the lower alcohol with the taps is we've dropped those cocktails down to $7 or $8 to fight the people leaving and going to the breweries.
So we just moved into a new space with Whistling Andy. And within that, now we have a separate, we don't have to have a tasting room. We have a full restaurant and bar that's attached. But we're still finding that over 80% is alcoholic drinks. Our NA has gone up a little bit, but even at our other restaurants, I'm not seeing a huge push. It could definitely be that that's more of a Montana thing. We have NA menus, but they're still running under 10% of our drink revenue.
And that's Lisa, by the way.
Yes. Hey, Michael.
Sherman, do you want to?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about some of the broader threats. Stephen, I'm really interested in what happens in Colorado. We had a brand. They're kind of nascent, kind of new, but their formulations are all done, their patents are all done, and they came to us this week to discuss growing their Delta 9 hemp derivative, cannabis related product.
Oh, Jesus.
Man,
They're not the guys here in Golden down the street
No.
from me, are they?
no, they're local. They're here in Nashville. And all I can tell you guys is that I haven't had a cocktail all week, but I could get as hammered as I want. And it is literally one of their formulations is a simple syrup, sells for $100 a liter. And I don't need more than a dropper or two in a diet ginger ale, and I'm done for the night. And I mean, that to me would be the non-alcohol is not a threat. A replacement for alcohol is the threat. I would think, based on my experience, this stuff is marvelous. I don't know how else to say it. It is
But you said that,
fantastic.
so Sherman, is it, you got a slight buzz or you're like, you're out? I mean,
I'm not.
You're
I was very careful to only do a quarter ounce or a half ounce as described, and didn't put it in a cocktail, only put it in a diet drink. And it was a roller coaster for 2 hours.
wow.
So it's like taking an edible.
Yes, very much so. I would not drive. And as a bar owner, I'd be more concerned about liability and dosing this stuff than I would with alcohol. It's like an unknown variable, Stephen.
They're about to regulate it, at least here in Colorado.
Yeah.
The other thing is we have a company down the street, which is why I asked, that has bought some barrels from us, and they're trying to make a non-alcoholic quote unquote bourbon with this stuff in it. And I've tasted it, and I don't think it tastes like bourbon. It's an interesting flavor. It's, but they've been selling this, and it's not selling well. I mean, it's consumers go with what they know,
Yeah, exactly. And they're having tremendous success with a little shot that they sell mainly in smoke shops, vape shops, cigarette and tobacco shops. And they're in the bigger alcohol retailers here in Middle Tennessee because they don't need distributors. They can just do their own selling because it's not regulated yet in the same way. So it's been interesting. And I've read about this threat and Constellation's move and in their divestiture and other things associated with that business. But this is the first time I've experienced a product that really blew me away. And I thought, wow, this could really work.
Well, the other thing is, and like I said, I've got a number of friends that are in this sort of a business. This is Colorado after all. There is a federal limit, and it's like 0.03%, I believe.
0.03. This stuff is below that. Yeah.
But my guess is that at some point, the states are going to come in. I know Colorado is headed in that direction, and they're going to put a framework around it that may exceed the federal limits. But more importantly, they're probably going to put mandatory testing in. And one of the things we've found with CBD, which is different, but very, it's adjacent, if you will, is that CBD levels are all over the place.
Yeah.
When I say we, my neighbor owns a CBD company. And FDA is about to come in and actually already started. I think last month they shut down 12 companies saying that CBD is not a legal food additive. My guess is that will happen with this as well, and then there'll be a big court battle.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is a serious threat to us, but it's certainly something that we need to keep a look at. And I can tell you for a fact that the wholesalers are coming up with all kinds of, so we say, less than scientifically based numbers on why marijuana, CBD, and all this stuff are threats to our industry. because I've seen their slides.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna make sure that I get a whole, like, several years of supply of this before it's regulated, so.
You'll be like a bootlegger.
Hey, Michael, back to your original question, I just wanted to share very
Yeah.
quickly, we had a really huge quarter, and I remember last year in January, we didn't really see much in the way of sampling action, retail sampling request. And it's like nothing's changed. We booked 20 this week, and it's as though the brands that we're working with are not taking the foot off the gas. They're continuing to build momentum, and they want to be in stores sampling their product in this quarter. You know, we're just in the end of the first week and booked 22 samplings this week. And, you know, for part of January and February, and haven't even really gone deep to our other supplier connections to tell them, hey, let's go. You know, they're letting us set appointments for them. We're just seeing a lot of really good energy around brands wanting to build their product out there.
Well, I guess to a degree it's pent up because they
Maybe
were
so.
doing it for 2 years, 3
Yeah.
years. And now it's like unleash the hounds.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, welcome, Wendy. Let's see. So who wants to go next on what they're seeing in the year ahead and what might have surprised them?
I will.
yeah.
So 2022 is kind of a shit show for us. Wholesale grew a little bit, not as much as we had hoped. Retail, because of local law changes related to outside dining, quarters 1, 2, and 3, we were actually up almost 20%. And they took away our outdoor dining just for a subset of the businesses in Golden. And it killed us. So we're going to finish down on our on-premise because people wanted to sit outside and they could walk around the corner and do so with other businesses, but not with us. And hopefully city council is going to.
So explain that. So they're basically because.
So our outdoor dining, and there's three venues. Golden's a small town whose outdoor dining were on a right of way in an alley called Miners Alley. We lost, one city councilman decided he wanted to ride his bike down the alley, actually said it, and got city council to take outdoor dining away from just the 3 venues in Miners Alley. All the other venues in downtown were allowed outdoor dining on sidewalk or in parking lanes. That program was continued during summer and fall months in perpetuity. And so literally you could walk 30 meters and sit outside and have a beer or a cocktail, but you couldn't go to my venue where for 3 years you've been able to sit outside and have a beer or have a cocktail. And it cost us about 40% of our fourth quarter revenue.
So what's your recourse? Are you fighting it?
We're fighting it. I've gone to the media. The owners of the venues affected. The city is now going back to finally asking the community their opinion. And we're going to see what happens. The other thing that 2022 had for us was, I think I've told you all, because of my background, we've always viewed international and export as a big piece of our business plan. And so the trade war really bled us pretty badly. We'd set up significant trading relationships in Europe, all of which kind of ended up being put into stasis during the trade war. So beginning of 2022, because of the changes in punitive tariffs in the UK and the EU, all of our trading relationships reactivated, and everyone started either planning for orders or placing orders. We finally closed a deal with a major grocery chain in Germany for one of our whiskeys. We finally finalized a deal with a large importer we've been dancing with for multiple years in the UK. Came up with pricing, original order numbers, etc. And then the war in Ukraine hit. and it all stalled again.
Mm.
So where we thought we would be up across the board about 45 to 50% for 2022, pretty much we're finishing the year almost to the penny where we were in 2021. Where in 2021, our wholesale was up over 70% and our retail was up 24%. So, it's been kind of a roller coaster of a year. We didn't lose ground on revenue, but we didn't make the ground we thought we were going to make. And the other thing is we're still looking for investment and have gone round and round with a dozen investors over the last year, half of whom are still talking. But because of the economic uncertainty, everybody is sort of sitting on their heels. And, I guess we'll see. So we're still in business and some categories are still growing and et cetera. But 2022 was not a great year for us.
Let's talk about, I want to introduce a couple of people who are Mark Chrysler, Trellis Wine. You're welcome.
Thank you.
A new face.
Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Tell us what you're seeing, and you're dealing in the wine space as well. So I wonder if you can corroborate what Kerry was indicating.
Yeah. So just a little brief about who we are. We're a outsourced sales and marketing company that works with independent family-owned producers of wine, spirits, and non-alcoholics, and then specifically works with the large, or I should say, multi-unit restaurant and hotel groups around the U.S. So we introduce the independent to the corporate entities. So we do work a lot with wine and also a lot with spirits, but also a lot with non-alcoholic. And so I agree with the sentiments that have been said about the non-alcoholic growth. And we're seeing it certainly in the restaurant and hotel groups. There's a large interest in seeing a lot more non-alcoholic, but this goes into wine as well as into spirits. There's obviously a lot of low ABV interest in cocktails and in menu mentions. We're seeing a lot of also a lot of low calorie wine being introduced. More and more producers are coming into the marketplace from the US and abroad, and we're seeing more menus having specific mentions for lower alcohol. And I think part of that is, for lack of a better description, the White Claw effect, where people are looking for lower calories, and maybe a little bit lower alcohol, which also plays into the non-alcoholic demand. I too agree that those segments are not necessarily taking over alcohol sales. We're seeing greater than ever sales from pre-pandemic to post-pandemic. 2021 and our space has probably been the largest in the last decade. And the sights are, even with the economy the way it is, that premium is going to continue to grow in 2023. The hotel space really hasn't even completely recovered from the pandemic yet from a meeting and event standpoint. So we still see a lot of growth there. As far as trends go, nothing is really surprising yet, other than the surprising part is that the level of inflation that's happening and the rising costs of goods and services hasn't really derailed in a large part. Obviously, it has in a multitude of segments and a multitude of cities and places, but from the macro standpoint, it hasn't really affected the consumers' interest in going out and spending and enjoying their time. I still think the new Roaring 20s is still rolling. That could change as the year goes on, as things become more expensive and as we still have supply challenges and more difficulty getting basic services at a reasonable cost. But at this point, the forecast is, at least what I'm hearing from a lot of the restaurant company presidents and hotel presidents, is I see a pretty strong year in 2023, regardless of inflation and interest rates.
I think that's an interesting point that I wanted to, was going to raise, and that is the economic uncertainty it's coming at the same time that people are just embracing going out again. So it's almost it's counteracting what might be a normal reaction to say, let's stay in. We've already been staying in. Let's go out and spend more money on it and spend less money on other things.
Yeah, I mean, I do think some people are trading down a level from whatever the way they were doing consistently. But, you know, there is obviously economic pressures for a lot of people in the US. And yeah, I think all of us and everyone has felt it through the pandemic. And so we're all, dealing with it one form or another, but there just seems to be this energy around, at least on premise, that's suggesting that people still want to enjoy their time with people. And because there's still a fear that it could change and it could go back to something similar to the way it was in the pandemic. And I don't think the consuming public is quite ready for that to happen again. And if it did, they want to make sure that they got in as much as they could before it happened again. Everyone hopes that it won't. And I unlikely that it will, at least in the near future.
Yep.
But
So thank you for that. And I think we have Jen from Doan Distillery, who's also new to the group here. Jen, do you have a camera? Or you
I don't, not where I'm at, but actually, Chris Labange, who spoke earlier, he is actually our owner. So he is the owner of Doan.
So there you go, the tag team. All right. Vanessa, you're back. I see you've been moving around, moving and shaking as you usually, as we would expect. Now you're settled into your perch. So what do you see?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. I gotta say, where's Carrie? Oh, she's
Carrie's
not
up,
here.
well,
Oh, there's Carrie. Okay. I gotta say, I had a surprise visit from Carrie. She came to my distillery. I have to share the picture, but it's in my other phone, Carrie. We came out, we had a great time. She was actually staying with a friend of hers that happened to know me. Small world.
Somehow that doesn't surprise me that people know you.
Right. So we had I forced her. I said, how are you going to be 3 minutes away and not visit me? But it's been, we had a great time. I want to say hello, everyone. I'm Vanessa Braxton. I own Grace Andy Braxton Distillers. Yes, I actually distill. I make Black Mama Vodka. Next month, I'll be going into my 10th year. So I'm trying to do like a 10th anniversary something. I still can't figure out what. This year, I plan to release my American Single Malt, my Black Mama Mahogany Whiskey, which has been in a barrel for about 6 years. I hope it came out really good. But what I've been seeing, for me, as as a minority and as a woman-owned distiller, there's less than, well, there's one, me.
Yeah,
I can say that. And then there's like 6, 7 other Black-owned distilleries that actually distill. We're trying to move into a direction of getting more distribution. I'm with Republic. I left Southern in other areas, but Republic now has, and Cheryl from Linded has partnered together to try to help minority women, BIPOC, in terms of distribution, and I'm sitting on, their spearhead board to try to bring more diversity and inclusion into the spirit industry, as far as not just brands, but also as far as makers. I'm gonna say my sales have probably tripled last year, but I'm still small. I'm still a craft. Thank you so much, Dan. I just picked up Total Wines and More, in all, in about 8 major markets with 103 stores. So I'm going through that, but it's a push and initiative for smaller brands. of what they're doing. It's not just minority too, but it's also craft brands. They want to give customers craft, local. So I'm seeing a big trend about that this year. They want the story. They want to see who's behind it, who's actually making it. You know, they're there to support. They're giving marketing dollars. I couldn't believe that.
That's what I was gonna say.
Talking about a
Are they
distributor.
investing? So they're funding rather than the usual
Yeah.
numbers that they're gonna charge for that placement.
Uh-oh, did I lose Michael? Oh,
No?
lost
No,
you for a minute.
No, I'm saying it's interesting that they are funding marketing versus what they've historically done is use it as a profit center,
Right,
charge.
you know, and
fees.
I'm benefiting. They actually pay for it. And I was like, are you sure this is not going to be like the record industry as a recoupable or for my sales? You know, they're like, no, they're making this investment to do that, you know? So I was like, okay, so we're going to see. That's what I'm seeing a lot of. Also, I'm getting a lot of requests for agave spirits. Agave spirits. Remember we talked about that the last
Mhm.
time? Well, through Republic, I'm doing 1 liter. I do a well program here. And now the well program with the vodka, you know, it's easy. It goes out the door. It's not as polished, but it's a well, you know, and I get to sell direct here in New York. Well, Sam's Club, you know, one of the presenters, nationals, presented it to Sam's Club, and they said, no, we don't want any vodka, but can you do an agave spirit? I said, hell yeah, I can do anything you want. So I'm gonna be making an agave spirit for their well program, like how I do with the other guy that has the
Mhm.
margarita place. You know, so I see agave spirit moving into being requested in this industry to compete with tequila. The
Mhm.
one thing there isn't when you're putting your label through your cola through, they don't have a character. They don't have like a characterization line for agave spirit. So you actually have to put it in as a DSS, a distilled spirit specialty, you know, for a formula, and then they'll do it. So I see agave moving into the industry. Of course, bourbon and whiskey. I
Mhm.
mean, you know, American single malt and bourbon. You know, people are putting in more requests for that. I think that's going to continue to thrive and probably beat out the S&P. You know, so I don't see the liquor industry really stopping in terms of those 2 categories, plus with the inclusion and you know, diversity within the market. So I see that as a trend and a good thing for the upcoming year. From my lens as a distiller.
So Wendy, I know you're dealing with agave spirit. Are you seeing some pickup as well?
No, in fact, our last quarter, October was good, but November started to trail off and December was pretty miserable. I have a bunch of we've had 3 advocates that were some of our biggest purchasers for retail left. And then the companies just decided to go with a big distributor because we self-distribute in Arizona.
Mm.
So that was a little bit hard to deal with. So we've been trying to re-strategize. I just talked to Rokit. I don't know if anybody's spoken to them or seen them. They've been around only a couple of years, but they do the Salesforce bit and work with Park Street or any distributor really. We have been working with LibDib when we need to send it out. And I don't know, we need a new strategy for what we're doing. On the agave spirit side, when people taste it, they say they like it. I mean, my #1 seller in my agave line is a barrel rested product. People love it. So
Where are you getting are you a member of the California Agave Council? That Craig?
I'm in Arizona, so no, I'm not.
I'm in New York. I'm not in California.
Okay, no, I didn't know.
I'm
I
gonna
don't
send
know
you the
anything.
information.
Okay, that'd be
because-
great. Thanks.
Yeah, because he's making the agave spirits the agave spirits, the agave syrup. Craig, I have 15 acres in California. Some of it is for weed, but I have Craig who's gonna use maybe about 2 acres of my land to plant agave plants and harvest. He has it already on his land, about maybe 10 acres. This is in northern. It's already aged to 7 years, and he started
awesome.
harvesting and then
That's
doing
awesome.
it the same way as they do in Mexico. So I'm gonna buy a 55-gallon drum for him and utilize that. And they're trying to sell to distillers in the US, and you're close.
Yeah,
So that's
I am.
something definitely.
Yeah, we buy it by the tote is what we do. We go through about 4 totes a year.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's good. Yeah, so, and he wants it to, I'll send you all of the information. Because
Okay,
it'll
great,
be
thank
like 100% California agave or something like that.
Vanessa,
Vanessa, if you would send it to us as well, I'd appreciate it. It's something that we're
Yes.
looking at. That'd be fantastic. Thank you.
I was just gonna say the same thing, Chris.
Oh, where's, oh, Jen, okay, yeah,
Jen,
okay,
yeah,
Chris,
Jen,
yeah.
Jen and Chris. Yeah, we're actually looking to do something. We actually have a hotel in Mexico that's actually interested in bringing us in to distill on premise as kind of a featured kind of, I don't know, interesting concept. So we don't know if we can do it licensing wise and, try to figure it out. But obviously agave in Mexico is one of the things we're trying to, is something we would do down there. So if that doesn't work out, or us just practicing, kind of honing, the agave spirit here for the US, it's something that is definitely in our future one way or the other. So that information would be helpful. Thank you.
Very good. Ernesto, do you
Yeah, I'll
want
send it.
to weigh
I
in
can
on
do
the
a
tequila
reply
versus
all
the-
in the email, right? I
Yeah.
think we, okay, so I'll do that.
Yeah,
definitely.
you've got the emails. Yeah. You want to talk about tequila versus agave spirit?
Good morning, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, well, I could offer totes of real tequila for all you guys that want some agave spirits. We've got the connections with the distilleries, and we could bring up totes as long as they're 51% agave. They're mixtos in totes or in bottled 100% agave. We've got that. We as far as we go, we can't keep our products in stock. All of our products are high end, high quality, and our growth has been tremendous throughout this last year. Definitely. We're also in Total Wine, so they are a really good partner for us. We've got some brands that are nationwide with them, and then we've got other brands that are state by state. But we're doing very well with our craft products. They are craft, just like what Vanessa was saying. Our bottles are single barrels. We got a barrel program going on with Total Wine. The regional barrel captains are picking barrels, buying 3, 4, 5 barrels at a time, and then we're doing a special engraving onto the bottles, I should say. Especially for Total Wine, and it's available for any big retailer that would want to buy barrels at a time. So we're doing really good, and I do honestly offer you guys, if you guys want totes of tequila, we could work that out definitely.
Ernesto, this is Jennifer from Doan Distillery. I would love your information, if possible.
Okay, do I put that in the chat?
Yeah, Jen, if you got the email from Stephanie, you've got Ernesto's phone number and email
Perfect.
in it. You all got that as the attachment today. So,
Okay.
but, feel free to, Stephanie can always connect you if you need to.
I'd like to get information to Ernesto, so I'll definitely do that. But the quick
Sure.
question is, do we have to still wait for the Mexican government to do a classification if we get a tote? Or we
No,
don't?
because it's
Okay.
tequila.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
you wouldn't have to do the formulation because it's just tequila comes in a tote, and we could definitely do it.
So when we import it in, we'll say it's distilled in Mexico, wherever.
Right. I would import it and just get it.
Oh,
get it
you
in.
here?
I'm in
Yeah.
California.
Oh, I thought you were in Mexico, son.
I was in Mexico 2 days ago, but yeah, I'm here. I'm in SoCal.
Oh,
I'm in LA County.
then, okay. We sending your information.
Right.
So I have
I
a
just put my
question.
just basic info in the chat, but I don't know about the
Yeah, I see
email
you
with
put it in the
everybody in.
chat, but it's also, I have a question on a price point. Cost basis, how does agave spirit compare to tequila?
It's a good question. I don't know. How much is it?
Right.
Tequila's not cheap right now.
Right, so
Right.
what's a tote of tequila, do you think, right now?
I mean, Blanco tequila right now is about,
Is it by proof gallon or?
yeah, it ships at 55%. 243 a liter of 55 pesos, right? 243 pesos.
We can pay you in pesos?
Sure, I'll take pesos. I use pesos every day, so yeah, definitely. How much is it, like 30 bucks?
I think I got that in my purse someplace.
Like
Some loose pesos?
39, we're doing just rough numbers, $39 a gallon
$39 a gallon, okay.
at 55.
So what, okay, what, I'm like, Wendy, what's a tote of, what's the gallon price of agave spirit you buy?
It's just under $20.
Okay. So therein lies, are we talking proof gallons or liquid gallons?
No, you asked me about the agave. The raw nectar is actually just under $20 for
The raw
100% Blue
nectar.
Weber agave out of
Yeah.
Mexico for me
Yeah.
when I import it.
Okay,
But we're
Yeah, I
talking
think
about
my
100%.
last tote was, I think, 18 something per gallon.
Yeah, so the number I just threw out is 100% agave though. So it would have to be adjusted because in a tote, it would have to be a mixto, so it is more economical for sure.
Yeah, we don't, well, what we produce is just strictly 100%. So for what we bottle. We don't cut it with anything.
It sounds like you guys are talking past each other. I think Wendy,
Yeah.
you're talking agave dew, and I think Ernesto, you're talking finished spirit, right?
I'm talking tequila.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then tequila cannot be shipped out and 100% in the tote.
Got it.
all
Okay.
right, so we'll have to do the math on that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'd be interested as well in potentially listing it. We do get inquiries for tequila quite often, so
Sure,
in the marketplace.
whatever we can do.
Do you guys is there enough agave in Mexico right now to support all this tequila going out the door? That's my concern.
Well, that's why the price point, and there is, especially a Blanco agave, Blanco tequila, there's plenty. And you were talking about agave plantations. We personally, as a company, we have agave plantations and we have it already cycled for what our needs and future needs for the next like 10 years. So there is a lot of agave plant. I don't know if anybody's been to Jalisco lately, but there are millions and millions of plants in the
They're
ground.
planting everywhere.
Correct, everywhere along the side of the road, in the lot next door to your house. You know, a little, 30 by 40. They've got there's agave being planted everywhere. Yeah.
But those are early. You still have to have a certain amount of years to harvest. Now in
Sure.
the US, everybody and their mama is coming to Jalisco to go get some
No,
tequila.
but this crazy planting has been going on for 4 or 5 years now. So there's mature agave in these little plots all everywhere. If you visit, you're driving and you're just agave fields like crazy. And the thing is, a lot of people, so a little side note, a lot of people saying, well, like they tell me, don't plant agave, it's going to be a glut of plant. But what happens is that a lot of people don't realize that there's tequila to be made, and then there's a lot of sugar and agave syrup and all that other stuff that also use the same plant. So there is a huge demand for the plant, and we hopefully got ahead of it for our production. We're small, like I think most of us here are. The biggies are having issues, sure, because they've got millions and millions of liters that they need to push out. you know. to
Yeah,
be developed.
I've got friends that are, let's call them higher end, medium-sized producers that are pretty globally well-known.
Yeah.
And they're literally having to go as far away from tequila as they can legally go and rent houses for their laborers to harvest agave because nothing's close. They can't get the quality and the age on the blue agave they need for their products where they traditionally have gotten them
Yes,
because
that
the
is
demand
correct.
is just going up.
That is correct. Right. There's a little bit of an issue with the CRT is actually they've as of this year, I believe they're cracking down a little bit on deforestation for sustainability of agave because people are doing exactly that. They're going into Nayarit, they're going into Guanajuato, the other states that have denomination of origin, and what used to be cornfields or for beans and chili, sugarcane. A lot of sugarcane fields are being torn down to put agave, which is still okay. What they're not wanting to do is if you drive down there, you can see these hills and mountains. The agave producers are going higher and higher up, and they're deforesting. They're knocking down trees, old growth, all this good stuff. So the CRT is cracking down on, if it was farmland before, you can put agave. If it was forest or just desert, cactus, stuff like that, they're cracking down on they even if you're within denomination of origin, they are not allowing you to register that agave with them, which is great. But again, as I mentioned, the sugar producers and the agave syrup producers, they don't have that requirement, so it's still going on.
Tony Abou-Ganim.
Hey, Michael.
Oh, look at this. He's outside under a beautiful blue sky.
It is a beautiful morning here in Las Vegas. It's early. I'm gearing up for a little bar staff training, so I just stepped out for a minute. But Happy New Year, everyone. Nice to be back. And just to touch a little bit, and Mark, welcome to the group. Having a Happy New Year. I would just want to kind of piggyback on what Mark was saying here in Las Vegas. Man, I'm surprised at how we've come back. We have CES in town right now. Hotels are packed, rates are up. Our business is better than it's ever been at Libertine Social. So that was a surprise to me, but also a great sign. But I just want to talk just for a quick minute, because everyone that, as I've been listening to, smaller producers, how do we get our product out there? How do we get it known? How do we get some attention around it? I get brands coming to me weekly, sometimes several times a week, and say, I love your product. I'd love to bring you in, but it doesn't do anybody any good if I bring that product in and it sits on the back bar. We need to build some buzz around it. We need to, get people in here tasting, get our bartenders excited, maybe get it on a cocktail menu and a drink. That's the way you start to create a little bit of buzz and a little bit of movement on it, because I've still got bottles from 8 years ago when we opened Libertine Social. But I'm going to just leave you with this. We are 2 weeks away from ending submissions for the TAG Global Spirits Awards held here in Las Vegas at the Delano. It's the end of the month, kicks off on the 30th through February 3rd. February 3rd, we celebrate with the Pink Tie Party, which benefits my charity, the Helen David Relief Fund. And one of the commitments that we've made to everyone who's entered this year is that we're really going to make a push on helping you promote your product that you entered during the year to come. So it's not like you enter the competition, you get your medal, and you're forgotten. We're going to provide tasting notes from our esteemed judges, and we're going to do our best to really help get your brand out there in the following year. So we would love to see some of you participate. Entries are still open. TagSpiritsAwards.com. Everything you need to know is right there. And there are a lot of great consumer events, so we'd love to have you come visit us in Las Vegas.
That's great. I would be great to see some brands from this call make it big in TAG, and we'd be able to chronicle the impact and the pull that's created.
I'd like to actually piggyback on what Tony said, because this makes, especially to young and new distillers out there, making the first sale is the easiest sale you'll ever make. And a lot of people don't understand that, you know, and like what Tony said, I mean, I've got clients where I remember having a client and he gave me a list of all the PODs that he had in Manhattan. There was 124 POD. And then I went through them all and I said, but only 8% are pulling through. And this is a huge, huge part of making the business work. You have no brand and nobody cares about it. That's the number one thing to remember. Nobody cares. You look at the shelves at Total Wine, they're filled with you and everybody else. But you got to get rid of that brand on the shelf, and you got to get rid of that brand behind the bar. And that is plain everyday, 100% blocking and tackling, just moving the brand. This is the groundwork. And a lot of people sort of, you know, don't think about that. A lot of people think that they have to hire a brand ambassador. No, you don't. You need a salesperson that can tell a good story, you know, but someone who actually understands how the mechanisms of sales work. You know, like I said, you know, the first batch going out there, getting on the shelf, everyone wants the new guy, the new person. That's all fine. Second, third, that's when you have a brand. It's something that I call the North Dakota syndrome. If your bottle is sitting on a shelf in some liquor store in North Dakota, and someone walks up and has an emotional connection with that, that's a brand. Prior to that, you just have a product. And you have to get yourself out of the product mode and into the brand mode. And the brand is all of the other things besides what's in the product, besides what's in the bottle. It's how you go to market. It's how you do your promotions, the type of people you bring out. It's the connectivity of the narrative behind it, you know, and how does that actually make an emotional impact on the three-tier system here. It has to survive past just the founder's story. The founder creates the story. That's the narrative. But then that narrative is going to get, you know, brought down. If let's say, for example, you've got a distributor out there, it has to go out to like the worst salesperson on that distributor's team and survive that, and then down into the retail and then the on-premise sector before it even gets to before it ever gets to the consumer. So all of those things have to really be built into the process of.
And hence the importance of supporting a brand with a strong story and ongoing social and influencers. And you know, the more you can have reviews and all those things.
They're all parts of it. They're all part of this big. You know, if you look at that, you know, Michael, that's it's a pie, and these are all slices of the pie. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Michael Clancy has shared with us a link to the Virgin Mary bar. Michael, I just called it up. I haven't really looked at it yet. So what are we looking at here?
Yeah, I'll just come in there. So basically, I come in, you guys were talking about non-alcoholic drinks, and I just shot this up. So these are a bunch of Irish guys who set up a bar, a non-alcoholic bar called the Virgin Mary Bar in Dublin. But they've actually since rolled the concept out to Dubai, I thought, but they're saying Abu Dhabi, and but they've rolled out to 2 Middle Eastern countries anyway. And this concept, so it's very much high-end cocktails, expensive stuff, and they're now into these kind of mood-boosting cocktails, which again, just to me, yeah, it's a bit
like
anyway.
Herbal, like holy basil to alleviate stress.
Yeah, this sort of stuff. Yeah, so I'm always a bit dubious, right, of these kind of things where you're making health claims around around anything, right? So if it's, you know, unless it's backed up by kind of medical evidence. So that's the kind of issue I have with it. But the whole thing around this is very much around you know, non-alcoholic drinks. I don't like the mood boosting thing, but everything else is you know, it's extremely kind of high end. In Dublin, has it taken off hugely? I wouldn't really say so. And interestingly, these guys, the other part of the building is used as the training facility by Pernod Ricard. So that's a kind of they probably pay some of the bills, you know. But it's quite an interesting one anyway. Just that these guys have seen this niche, and they've gone to the Middle East, where obviously from a sobriety point of view, it's a kind of a no-brainer in terms of where they're rolling this out. But yeah, that's just quite an interesting one. My own view on kind of low and no, you get a lot of talk about it this time of the year. You know, certainly the big brands are pushing hard on this because, and there's a very specific and cynical reason behind this, to my mind. So basically, you have, you know, in Ireland we've brought in quite constraints around alcohol advertising and promotion. This bill called the Public Health Alcohol Act, and non-alcoholic drinks are a way of big brands getting their name out there. You know, still getting the brand name out there, except as a 00 at the end of it. So, for example, you have Guinness 00, which is actually, it's not too bad. You have Heineken 0, you have Gordon's 0 gin, and like, so you see big billboard ads for all this stuff, whereas they can't put up billboard ads for that material. They can't advertise in, you know, certain magazines and TV and whatever, but you can advertise a 00 thing and still get your Guinness brand name out there. So it's quite a cynical thing from my point of view. I heard you guys talking about cannabis-based drinks. Again, I'm you know, we don't have that stuff here yet. I'm quite dubious about that sort of anything that's kind of unregulated and has mood altering effects. I'd be very dubious of and wary of, to be honest. On the other, I suppose the other just factor on thing on the no and low, there is a lot of kind of research done here on like Gen Zs, and they are drinking less, or they're drinking, you're having more socializing occasions that don't involve getting hammered, being honest. So that's the no and low kind of trend is feeding into that, and certainly that's part of it. But you know, some of the no and low products that are out there, quite frankly, I don't think they're great. And I do think there's kind of a food safety risk to a lot of them. So say anything that's pretending to be a spirit that is in a more than a single use serving, either it's full of preservatives, or else it's a potential food safety risk. So it's one or the other. So if you have a 700 ml bottle that's a non-alcoholic gin or non-alcoholic spirit, once you open that then is a food safety risk unless it's got preservatives in it. So that's just something that you need to be very careful of. And you know, we've been asked by people to look at doing this for them or to do it ourselves or whatever. And it's not something we're kind of prepared to go to because we don't have the preservation facility. So I don't have a tunnel pasteurizer to pasteurize product, you know, to make it safe to get to the customer. I don't want to put out something that's full of preservatives. So, you know, it's either one or the other. So I suppose that's a watch out for people on it. And the other thing then is that in Europe, and certainly in Ireland, you cannot sell something that is less than 37.5% and call it gin or vodka. Or you certainly can't sell anything that's less than 40% ABV and call it whiskey, because it contravenes the marketing regulations. So it's you know, just, you know, I'm yet to kind of taste something that's really made me go, wow, that's fantastic. You know, and there's lots of occasions when I do go out and I'm driving or whatever that I would be quite happy to have something. I often would end up with, you know, a sparkling water and a drop of decent bitters in it would be just as good as a lot of what's out there, you know.
I drink that all the time.
Yeah, so that's
Very-
my dubious stuff. Carrie, yeah, go ahead.
I have a question for the group. Has anyone, I think it came out this summer and I'm not sure if it's full-fledged in the United States yet, heard this pill called Miracle? It's MYRKL. And it's supposed to use something to break down the alcohol before it hits your liver. No one's heard of it?
I have heard of something similar, but I didn't hear that. And
I
that
think
was-
it was from Sweden, maybe? I
There's
don't know, but
several, there's several of those products coming onto the market. FDA is reviewing like half a dozen more.
this
I actually heard
was
about it from an
in,
investment banker that is somehow involved.
I mean, I think at first they were calling it a hangover cure or whatever, but it's really, before you get to that point, it's supposed to protect your liver and break down 70% of the alcohol or something before it gets to your liver, using probiotics or. I'm not
All I
sure.
can say is that I was in the
I
tech.
read an article from the UK about it yesterday.
I was in the tech industry for many years, and one of the things we learned in the tech industry is that just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. And that kind of sounds
Yeah.
in that
Um,
area.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think for me, certainly the kind of low alcohol serves, and I heard Stephen talking about highballs and as a serve, that's certainly a trend. That's certainly something with our Bart's whiskey. That's something we would push as a serve, is a highball as a drink for if you want a longer drink, if you want to do something. Just I meant to say this at the start when I come on. So today in Ireland is the 6th, well, everywhere it's the 6th of January, but it's known in Ireland as Nullag na Mán, so which is Women's Christmas. So happy Nullag na Mán to the ladies on the call.
Women's Christmas.
What do we get?
What do you get?
Who's bringing
So-
the gifts?
Traditionally in Ireland, this was the kind of end of the Christmas season, and the women would have been slaving hard, even harder than they would have been for the rest of the year, all during the Christmas season. So on the 6th of January, the women would go out for the night,
To the pubs.
and they'd go out and have a meal and go to the pub and have drinks, and that was their kind of day out. So anyway, it's also known as Little Christmas, but anyway.
Yeah.
And then they could choose from the what are the 5 best anti-hangover pills, according to Drink Me.
Look up this Miracle. I read about it in, I think it was Drinks Business yesterday. It's
Okay.
MYRKIL, but I don't think they're selling it as a hangover. It's like, I don't know, before you get to that.
Here it is. The pre-drinking pill.
Yeah, pre-drinking, that's what they said. Oh, now that bottle's different than what I saw on the thing. Oh, that's the US version, I guess.
There was something like this
Now
out of
available in US, Canada, and Brazil.
There's
There
been a
was
number of
I
these.
think I
12
saw
years ago.
this. I think I saw this thing all right at some point. Yeah, there was something like in the late 90s. There was something that I remember that was, was a thing you took when you came home from the pub. You took it in it was like taking, I don't know if you have Saltadine over there. It's like taking a pill that you dissolve in water. And this thing was like that. If you remembered when you came home from the pub, you took this before you went to bed. And,
Yeah, I
you'd be
remember
fine in the
that.
morning. Yeah.
And I remember it was a couple years ago, and it was like being touted as this miracle, and then it disappeared.
I
Yeah.
remember exactly the same one. About 15
Something
years
from
ago.
Russia or something. It was
This DHM is the one that's kind of been floating around, and I think a lot of these companies are using that one. So you can buy just DHM directly. We did a bunch of testing with it, and it's pretty phenomenal what it does.
In what way?
In the sense that if you're taking a couple of those before and then a couple while you're drinking, you literally don't feel any effects of any alcohol the next day.
Really.
So it's
I
just a
would-
natural
I would-
supplement. I think there's a lot of rebranding and marketing going on with it. But as far as I think that's the chemical compound, we've talked to a variety of different doctors about it. Because there had been some talk about adding it into different drink syrups and da 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 da. But it's just a capsule you can buy Amazon, most, high-end or health supplement stores and so forth.
Or alternatively, you can become professional drinkers. So you build up your tolerance and you feel fine the next day.
I
Yes,
think that one I
those
just said
usually are.
though, their selling point was more, I mean, I think it was not about feeling bad, but I think it was also, the majority of the article was more about protecting your liver. Like it was supposed to stop it before the damage, blocking it before the damage can take place or something like that.
This is all over Amazon. Wow.
Yeah, milk thistle does that as well, and there's a lot of.
I
research
take milk
behind it.
thistle and I take that NAC stuff.
So I'm reading on their website and that claim is not made because they probably can't make it in the US with the FDA. Because it basically says contributes to reduction of tiredness and fatigue. Doesn't say anything about liver protection.
That's funny because that's this is like the opposite of what I read on the UK website on
They
Drinks
could. In
Business.
the United States, they can't. They'll be shut down by the FDA before.
Yeah. I wonder if it's the same ingredients.
You know, it's the internet. God knows what goes on.
Let's see what it says here.
Again, drink less but better would be my view. Drink higher quality, more
Better.
more
right?
premium products and drink less of them.
I'm all for the long drinks, like like Stephen was mentioning. I'm all for the highballs.
Yeah.
Bring those back.
It's sort of a mission of mine in a beer town to get people. We're doing Colorado single malt highballs on tap.
Yeah.
And when it's 100 degrees out, the breweries are full, and my little cocktail lounge typically isn't. And I'm hoping that we can do $5 low ABV Colorado single malt highballs this summer and pack them in. We're going to see what happens.
I think it's a great idea.
Open
Americans do not embrace the highball in the modern era like they did in the 1800s. And yet you go to
or in the
Japan.
1960s.
Well, you go to Japan, and in Japan, every bar, every vending machine has a highball. I mean, for 200 yen, you get a can of highball with Suntory.
Yep. I was going to
so-called
say their
whiskey.
definition of highball is different than ours though.
Well, and then they do Chuhai as well, which is sort of a shochu or grain, spirit, and fruit juice highball.
I mean, the Mizunari is a staple of the Japanese cocktail lounge. But they're famous for drinking whiskey in a lot of diluted forms. Because they drink it like we drink wine and beer. With everything as a food. And it was interesting. I had about 8 years ago when Beam Suntory either merged or was acquired, depending on who you talk to. I had a long conversation with Shinji Fukuyu, who was the chief blender of Suntory, and he kept asking me over and over and over about what people thought about Jim Beam White Label, and who drank it, and what was the. And it was very interesting. I took away from that conversation, and when I went to Japan 2 years ago, I saw Jim Beam highballs literally all over every Lawson's and every 7-Eleven, and I said, okay, and that's exactly where we go, right there.
It's I went to high school in Japan, and I ran Ford's supply chain in Asia for a number of years and was based out of Tokyo. And in those days, everything was Suntory because it was pre-merger. But Suntory was still flooding the market with canned highballs for, like, in those days, 120 yen. It's like a $1.50 for a can that is a whiskey highball. And was it really whiskey? No. It was a little caramel coloring, a little neutral spirit and soda water. But they've really, even though the Japanese have become in some ways masters of the high-end craft cocktail, far more whiskey is consumed in highball form. And I mean, you hear everyone talk about high-end Japanese whiskeys. What you don't realize is that every single liquor store sells all the big brands on the bottom shelf in 5-liter jugs that are rot gut cheap whiskey that is drunk by the mass majority of the Japanese, often in diluted form as some sort of a highball or a Chuhai or something. I mean, the reason I've been a drinker of Nikka since I was 16 was that I was in high school at 16 in Japan, and I ended up going to summer school. And so a lot of the kids' families went on vacation and left the high school kids alone at 16 to do their summer school. And so we ended up taking over this apartment and getting this 5-liter jug of Nikka Black and drinking it basically as highballs. And that was the first time I'd ever really experienced Japanese whiskey. And I've been drinking Nikka to this day because of that.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, Nikka Black is dreadful stuff.
Oh man, it's the Calvert of Japanese whiskey.
Well, but Nikka Taketsuru 17 is ambrosia. So there's that.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, so it's a different philosophy. And as a whiskey brand owner, I think that we as American whiskey producers need to all get on board with trying to reintroduce the whiskey highball to the American consumer.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I'm all for that.
And
Yes,
if you come to Colorado, I'll pour you one on tap in my tasting room.
Awesome. Yes. There's a place here in New York City called Double Chicken Please. And it is a Japanese chicken and highball restaurant. And they've got all highballs on tap. And there's about 10 different variations of it, along with some really actually pretty dynamite chicken as well. But it's a great example of, and this place is packed all the time. It's on the Lower East Side, so it's like right in, like, you know, in the hippest area of New York City, and it's making a huge splash there. So I'd love to see the transportation of straight whiskey into, you know, you see highballs and tall drinks as being an extension of them, and there's your balance of your low alc right there. You know, it's an ounce and a half, you know, and a lot of water.
Yep, ounce and a half in a full-size Collins glass with a couple of cubes and maybe a garnish, maybe.
Maybe, not even necessary, exactly. So we got about 6, 7, 8 minutes left. Want to open it up? Anyone want to, anything they want to throw out for knowledge sharing or questions for anyone here in the group? No? All right. Then we'll share.
I'll let everybody know if anyone's involved in Bar 5 Day. I've just been added to the faculty. So end of the month, I'll be at Bar 5 Day in Central New York, at the Culinary Institute of America. And if you're really bored and can squeeze your way in, I don't know how you would, but if you could, you get to hear me pontificate on the history of distillation.
The history of distillation, just a small topic like that.
I'm taking David Wondrich's slot. Who knew?
So, all right, well, let's see. Our next session is February 3rd, which I believe is the day of the TAG Awards event in Las Vegas. So if anyone ends up going, you can be remote from Las Vegas that day. Right?
We will be there.
Yes, good. And it would be nice to see some brands. Don't you think, Tony? Is he still there? No, I don't know if he's there. All right. Well, yep.
I am here.
All right, good. So I was gonna say, it'd be nice to see if we see some of the brands represented here, you know, on your judging list.
I would love that. That'd be fantastic. And something like I always offer up, and if you're looking for distribution and anything I can ever help with in Nevada and Las Vegas, and if you just simply want some tasting notes and you want to send me a little sample, I'll be more than happy, for what it's worth, to put my tasting notes together for you, and that'd be my pleasure to do that. So
Hey,
like I said, I
Tony.
hope to see you in Las Vegas. Yes,
I'd love to chat with you about some feet on the street in Vegas and see if there's any cost-effective solutions you can think of.
absolutely. There's quite a few people that I work with that, you know, are either brokers or do, you know, like PR model firms. So, I mean, there's all kinds of different ways to do it. The USBG involvement is a great asset, you know, to be able to do a luncheon with the USBG here. We have a very strong chapter, and then that can roll nationally. So yeah, we should get on a call and have a little online Negroni together, and we can discuss it.
I'd love that. I'd love that. Yeah, we're getting ready to change distributors. We're with Johnson Brothers, and they're just not doing it for
Okay.
us. And we're probably going in a very different direction. And I need to get proper feet on the street with the new distributor. So
I definitely have some ideas and some insight into that. So yeah, let's
great.
set up.
I'll reach out.
Beautiful.
Cool.
Look
Thanks,
forward
man.
to
I
it.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Tony.
Oh, all right. Happy
See you in
New
a
Year,
couple weeks.
everyone.
And this is why we keep
See you in a
coming,
couple weeks.
right?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, guys. Thank all of you once again for participating.
Thank
making
you.
this, something worth keeping alive and growing.
Absolutely.
Thanks, folks.
See you.
Happy New Year.
everyone.
Happy New Year. Great to be here.
Happy
Thank
New
you.
Year.
Happy
Bye,
New
everybody.
Year.
Be well.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.